Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay, you've got 30 days to fix this, otherwise we're going to reconsider selling arms to Israel.
Okay, first of all, that wasn't Kamala Harris, that was Joe Biden. And secondly, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't do that. And there wasn't a single human rights group on the ground that actually claimed that Israel successfully had followed through on Biden's. You got British backup against your naysayers. Oh, yeah, I didn't even watch this full video, but I liked it and reposted it. But I didn't even watch this video. Here, let's see what he had to say.
Is consistently smeared as a radical anti-Semitic extremist because he dares to humanize the Palestinian people and their politics, and also because he criticizes Israel in a way that is consistent with the ICC,
You're a deeply unserious person? Yeah, I am.
the Pope, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty, and so many other internationally respected human rights organizations. But the streamers, LONERBOX and Destiny, are consistently held up as more reasonable people who deal with Palestine and Israel in a much more balanced way. But here they are with a literal Israeli government propagandist, Elon Levy, a man who was paid by the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu's office to go on British and Western media so as to lie for the Israeli government and to justify the continual slaughter of Palestinian people. And then, of course, I'm sure as many of you will know, one of the key figures crusading against Hasan has been his former co-host Ethan Klein. And just watch LONERBOX yesterday, the man who was brought on by Ethan to give reasonable opinions about Palestine.
You can get in. I think the American government, I don't know if you know, recently there was like a measure that was taken in October for 2 weeks where Israel basically, the IDF, I think without getting approval from Central Command, basically decided that they were going to surround the north of Gaza, and to do that operation, they weren't going to let anything in. Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay,
damn, bro, he fucking speed fried this. I can't even understand what he's trying to say.
You've got 30 days to fix this, otherwise we're going to reconsider selling on aid. And that's a pretty unprecedented thing for America to do. America doesn't talk about reconsidering arms to Israel very often, and then basically posted a bunch of videos saying, look, there's a bunch of trucks going into North Gaza, we got a bunch of trucks going in. So I think getting government...
God damn. I don't know what he... Can you slow down the TikTok? I don't think I can. I just genuinely can't even hear what he's saying. Clip in the description? Where? It's not. He's saying the idea of doing the general's plan in northern Gaza was a goof done by one IDF brigade and that Kamala was the one that put a stop to it. Oh, you can slow it down. Hold on. Let's do it.
Pressure. Get in, I think.
Co-host Ethan Klein brought...
The American government, I don't know if you know, recently there was like a measure that was taken in October for 2 weeks where Israel basically, the IDF, I think without getting approval from Central Command, basically decided that they were going to surround the north of Gaza, and to do that operation, they weren't going to let anything in. Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay, you've got 30 days to fix this, otherwise we're going to reconsider selling arms to Israel.
Okay, first of all, that wasn't Kamala Harris, that was Joe Biden. And secondly, Benjamin Netanyahu didn't do that. And there wasn't a single human rights group on the ground that actually claimed that Israel successfully had followed through on Biden's red line, his second red line. And not only that, but the leaked State Department memo showed that they wanted 350 trucks to go in daily. And not only did Israel cut the aid in the trucks in half, but also was, I think at its peak, allowing only 30 trucks. This was all, this was quite literally answered by the State Department, where a bunch of the State Department journalists at a press briefing asked why Biden had not followed through on the red line that they said, why Biden was not enforcing the red line that he said he wanted to do. 50 is the most that they let. Israel lets 58 trucks into northern Gaza, but this is like, once again, they have the aid on the trucks and they only let 50 trucks in. The line that Biden wanted them to enforce was 350 trucks, according to a leaked State Department memo. And yeah, see, Israel allowed 30 trucks of aid to reach northern Gaza on Monday after nearly 2 weeks. And as far as I understand, like the aid that they had was also halved as well.
Israel. We're going to reconsider our position on aid. And that's a pretty unprecedented thing for America to do. America doesn't talk about reconsidering arms to Israel very often.
If you go to Kojat and do the math, the month of November, they're only allowing 80 trucks a day average.
And then on the very next day, basically posted a bunch of videos saying, look, there's trucks going in. So I think getting government pressure to Israel actually does go a long way. I think
people like...
Yeah, government pressure goes a long way is ridiculous. I mean, look, I'm not going to immediately rush to conclusions and say like he's behaving like a propagandist for the state of Israel by trying to make himself come out like a person who is critical of Israel, but also simultaneously like saying that Israel is a separate actor that is operating outside of the scope of America, and that America has like limitations in terms of what it can and can't say to Israel. But it sure does feel like it, especially when paired up with the reality that he has hung out with Elon Levy in Israel alongside Destiny. But on like what he said here, I'm just going to address just what he said here. Okay, it's wrong. Not only did America make serious demands and even said that they would actually deny weapons transfers if Israel didn't follow through on it, because Israel decided they're going to do the final solution in northern Gaza, as you guys know. And Biden, leading up to the election, like so close, 30 days out from the election, basically said, or 20 days out from the election, basically said, oh, I'm enforcing a 30-day line, a red line, where you can't deny aid going into northern Gaza. And Israel did not follow that enforcement at all. And also, the very fact that Biden knows that he could apply this kind of pressure by saying we're going to refuse weapons transfers, that in and of itself is already, that means that they know the kind of, they know the mechanisms of enforcement. They know the kind of influence that they hold over Israel. It's ridiculous. It's all just aesthetic posturing from the Biden campaign, from the Biden administration, sorry, to make it seem like they're trying to do something. It's no different than the fucking Gaza Pier. They built that so that they could claim that like they were doing their very best to render aid to the Palestinian population, because everybody understands that it is a clear-cut direct violation of human rights law to refuse to render aid and allow humanitarian aid to go to a civilian area. Okay? It's just, that is like the definitional number one no-no. It's so glaringly obvious that the person, the founder of Human Rights Watch, who originally is not exactly critical of Israel and was actually on board with Israel's military actions in the immediate aftermath of October 7, changed his perspective publicly and said Israel is doing a genocide, specifically because of the reality that they are refusing to allow humanitarian aid to go in to parts of Gaza, specifically safe zones. Okay? That's it. It is such an obvious violation of human rights that it is one of the factors that the American State Department is supposed to consider when invoking the Leahy Law. Yeah, here it is. Human Rights Watch founder changes mind on Israel genocide charge. The co-founder of Human Rights Watch, whose German Jewish parents had to flee Nazi Germany, told CNN he now believes Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. Arieh Nair, who was also the head of the American Civil Liberties Union, previously didn't believe Israel's military actions on Gaza could be considered a genocide, but he changed his mind after. So it's, it's not something that not exactly something you can argue against. At best, you can be like, oh, America's trying their best, but they're just failing to do so. But I think adults understand, like if you're even remotely reasonable, you understand that America wants Israel to do these things, even if they are, even if they're incurring severe penalties for it in the form of losing social capital.
Israel actually does go a long way. I think
people like this are willing to say and do absolutely anything to justify. He tries to claim, oh, it wasn't actually the Israeli government who decided to siege and starve northern Gaza, as if Netanyahu and the other.
How are they losing social capital? How is America losing social capital on the global stage by aiding and abetting Israel's genocide? What do you mean? You have tens of thousands of people fucking protesting in the streets in the Western world. That is like unheard of against Israel. That's, that kind of pressure inevitably creates a fraction in Western governance between what their politicians are saying and doing and what the public wants and demands. Okay? When you sit there and you undermine the UN and you undermine ICC and you undermine the ICJ, you are withering away at your soft power capabilities. You're withering away your diplomatic capabilities. Ironically enough, this is something that Joe Biden actually said he was never going to do, and actually was going to do the exact opposite. He was saying that America was headed down a dangerous path with Donald Trump, which I did agree with to a certain degree. Wait, are you saying that the U.S. wants the genocide? I've been operating on the assumption that they don't want the genocide, but also don't care if it happens. No, I'm saying that there are things that Israel gets to do that America doesn't like, okay? Like spying on American state assets, right? Like America doesn't like that, okay? Stealing sensitive information from the CIA, for example. America's not fond of that sort of thing. Or even creating surveillance technology such as Pegasus that they give to everyone and anyone. Sometimes people that America doesn't want to have that kind of surveillance technology. Now, having said that, why is Israel allowed to do this? Is it because Jewish people have magical mind control powers? No, of course not. Okay? It's because Israel is given that bandwidth to do those things because Israel is a very important asset for American imperialism in the region. Okay? America, just like the rest of the Western world historically, have had designs for this region. All of the nation states that you see in the region were directly drawn by Western imperialist forces. Okay? They were. And they were designed in a way where there was always supposed to be sectarian infighting. Okay? Whether it be Lebanon, whether it be Syria, whether it be Jordan. Okay? These states were designed specifically so there was always ethnic strife, always ethnic tension, always religious sectarian differences that would cause destabilization, because destabilization ultimately is very beneficial for Western states in this resource-rich region, Western states that want to control this resource-rich region. Okay? Imagine being a ban-avoiding racist. Lol racist streamer. Local racist streamer. Local racist streamer. Oh, fuck me. I didn't mean local. What? What is he trying to say? Why do I read the most unhinged chatters? Because I like it. Anyway, he's saying I'm loco. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about? I'm forgetting.
Others at the top don't know what's going on, and it's just being carried out by a few rogue commanders. And when you listen to what he's saying about how Israel approved aid and that US government pressure worked, no it didn't. Israel did not meet the deadlines that the US government set. And what you should be focusing on in this conversation are the actual...
Oh, Israel's bandwidth to do what it wants. Yes. Israel is more valuable of an asset as it is a settler colonial project in its inception. Israel is a more significant asset in the region than any number of these different countries that could actually succumb to the whims of sectarian violence and maybe even a revolution. Historically speaking, some of these Arab countries have even tried to align with the USSR, for example. Big no-no. Okay? Israel, on the other hand, has always been loyal to Western interests. And Israel, especially in the aftermath of the dissolution of the apartheid state of South Africa, has learned very important lessons, such as making themselves so entangled with Western enterprise that it is impossible to divest. Israel has also spent a good deal of money in that time frame to do a shit ton of positive PR. So it is an invaluable ally in the eyes of the United States' State Department. Okay? Now, that doesn't change the reality that sometimes, because it goes so far in its endless bloodshed and its endless destabilization, that there are people within the State Department that want to continue American dominance in the region that are directly at odds with how hard they want to let Israel go. Okay? That's why you see all the people who resign, for example, from the State Department and have continued to resign since October 7. Israel also is a testing ground for all of the most nefarious and insidious forms of dominance against a civilian public. Israel gets to be our war factory. Gaza specifically gets to be our war factory, a weapons lab. Israel gets to be a laboratory for or unique different methods of dominating a population. It serves many different interests that America has. Just like Turkey, by way of NATO, serves America's purpose in the region in a very similar capacity, right? Because people always ask Hasan, like, well, people always claim I'm not critical of the Turkish involvement in Syria, and I am, which is ironic because all those people that turn around and say I'm a fucking Assadist, ironically enough, but Turkey gets to, for example, bomb the northern Syrian corridor into oblivion and completely enforce control over it because, and even in certain instances, accidentally blow up American positions, for example. And why does it get to do that? Well, sometimes deconfliction doesn't work in the ways that it's supposed to, but why does it get to do that? Because it's America's weapon in the region. Same with Israel. Israel can blow up a fucking USS carrier, and America will be like, yo, my bad. Why? Because America doesn't give a fuck about its own troops or its own citizens. Like, duh. No shit. America gives a fuck about American foreign interests. America gives a fuck about how much money our corporations in the military-industrial complex can make. America gives a fuck about how much our oil producers, our fossil fuel industry, how much money they could make in the region. There's always a bigger picture out there, and Israel plays a very important role in this bigger picture. So make no mistake, that's a bold statement. Yeah, dude, America cared so much about our fucking brave and bold military, our soldiers, our wonderful soldiers, that 22 veterans kill themselves every fucking day when they come back from these parts of the world where they just like engaged in unlimited murder and destruction at the behest of the same interests that I just mentioned, the military industrial complex and the fossil fuel industry. Yeah, they care so much about these soldiers. You simply just say false shit confidently. Sorry, it's no longer 22. You're right. I think it's 14 now. My bad. My bad. Yeah, I know. I read that article too. Fact check, please. Fact check, please. It's no longer 22. The numbers have been reduced. Yeah. Hasan, how good does Dan Clancy's dick taste? Wow. Real cool, man. What happened? I thought he was in love with me. Now you're saying I'm in love with him? Is that what happened? Oh, sorry. It's not 14. It's 17. It's not 22. It's 17. Anyway. So my point is, America obviously doesn't give a shit about its own citizens either. They care about enforcing their they care about engaging in their imperialist desires and in areas where there are resources that must be controlled, that must be extracted. They care about capital. That is the master. So yeah, that's why America lets Israel do whatever the fuck it wants in the area, and I think that a big part of the reason is because we have more important targets in mind. Okay, that more important target that we have in mind is China, and you can't have instability in the region if you have any sort of interest in dealing with China. You can't have instability in the Middle East. You have to, by force, dominate your most important ally's thorn on its side. 5 million people that demand sovereignty, understandably. You can't do that. You have to, destroy them first. You have to engage in maybe population transfer, mass ethnic cleansing. Okay? That's, I think, America's ultimate goal, is to sick Israel on Israel's enemies. And then inevitably, once the region is somewhat stabilized, continue along with the Abraham Accords, normalize relations with all the other client states that already had informal normalized relations, but formalize those normal relations and move on to, Taiwan.
Aid organizations who are saying that almost no aid is reaching northern Gaza, and that last week Israel denied 82 out of 91 attempts to bring aid to that area. But of course, for LONERBOX, he needs to tell you the Israeli government narrative because he's balanced and two-sided. And if you ever wonder why I'm so dismissive of liberal Zionists and people who say, oh, why can't you give the Israeli side? This is the Israeli side. It's just lies to justify the extermination of Palestinian people, or in times where they're not waging a brutal assault on Gaza, it is done to justify keeping Palestinians under an apartheid regime and taking their land constantly.
Yep.
I, on the other hand, believe that Palestinians deserve dignity and the right to live in the land that they have continually been marginalized in and ethnically cleansed from by the Zionist project. And of course, that means that people like me and Hasan are radical extremists.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff all around. We'll do a little basketball break. God, it's so foreign policy dense today.